Welcome to Co-op Mode, round 93. This is the official video game podcast of Secret Friends Unite. Oh my goodness. I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, joined by the Canardian, Mark Carabin. It's Secret Friends Unite Co-op Mode after dark on a weekend.
That's it. Yeah, we're running solo this week because my schedule's a little wonky. We're doing a trip where I'm on vacation, my wife and I, and we both have the same week off next week. You usually record on a Monday, but we might go away, we might stick around, but it's safer to record tonight. So it's a little later than usual. It's on a different day, but we're here, we're ready to go. Let's talk some video games.
And I'm partly to blame because I told Mark, I got a problem. I'm seeing Weird Al because I am a distinguished adult who has seen Weird Al probably 5 times, but he is coming to town, Minneapolis State Theater, but he's doing all original content. It's scaled down. It's almost like Weird Al Unplugged. This is a once in a lifetime thing. So I'm excited to see Weird Al without the fat suit. So good times are going to happen. So I'm very excited for that. Yeah, so folks, it's just the two of us. So this gives us more time to stretch out, enjoy some time. And really, we're reaching out to audience. We're reaching out to our Discord, Twitter. And I think we've got some really fun content this week, Mark. And that leads us into our Byron return. DLC edition. That's going to be the theme of this show. DLC. Downloadable content, because it's funny because everything's downloadable these days, so it's a term that's really old.
It is. Downloadable content is everything. There's
exactly
editions of every console. It's and
had its humble beginnings in horse armor, but there we are. So we're going to get into that with Byron return. And Mark and I have diverging interests and through time. So we decided, I gave like 6 options and Mark and I were like, okay, well, let's pick ones that we can at least agree on that we have an understanding of it versus like, I don't know, it's going to be a return to thing I don't care about, but that's okay. So this week we're dealing in games that had DLC that I think were significant enough to actually drive discussion. And that is Mass Effect 2, The Shadow Broker, which was part of many, many different DLCs in Mass Effect 2. Far Cry Blood Dragon, which potentially could say is an expansion, but it really was Far Cry's first efforts to go beyond just, a guy in a remote land trying to survive with a weird villain. And then Splatoon 2 really drove home the beginning of DLC. It was one of the first DLC initiatives for Nintendo. Well, maybe it wasn't, but it was close enough that it was something that they did differently. So let's move there.
It's definitely different.
Yeah. So, Mark, with these 3, we didn't pick a stinker, I don't think. So with that, knowing that none of these are really bad, where would you go?
This is a tough one because out of these, I've seen. And I can't remember if I played Blood Dragon, but I've definitely seen it. I might have played a little bit of it because it was such a kind of fever dream, weird 80s kind of thing. My brother picked it up, and I think I know I watched him play, and I'm trying to remember if I actually picked up the controller and played it myself. Have not played Mass Effect Shadow Broker. I did play Mass Effect 2 though, so I have more time with that one than Far Cry 3. So this is a really weird mix for me. I think the easy answer for me is to buy Splatoon 2, the Octo expansion. And that's not just because I'm paid by Nintendo to make that choice.
You had a podcast about Splatoon, Mark.
I had a Splatoon podcast with my friend Joe and of course Bobby, the Nintendo guru. And I love Splatoon, and this DLC was, like I said before, different in the way that this was the story mode. So you think of most Nintendo games, and it's like the story kind of comes first, and that mode's the main center of things, and then multiplayer is afterwards. But this one was opposite. Like the story mode was DLC; it's completely optional, and centered around an octoling, which I love, kind of like I think I'm like one of the few people that likes the octolings better than inklings. I just like octopuses better than squids. There's something of it, like octopuses are such weird creatures. They're
So
like
calamari, you're a big fan.
no, no. I think they're cool.
So you don't want the calamari because you like them
No,
so much.
exactly. I don't want to eat them.
Okay.
I want to be friends with an octopus. Um, they're just such interesting creatures. They're so smart and so just like quirky and stuff. But it was such a cool expansion and a cool story. Great boss fight at the end. And I really, really enjoyed this one. So yes, buy that one. I think at this point, I'm going to say rent Blood Dragon just because it is so wacky. It is so 80s and so like over the top, and it's just ridiculous that I think that's going to be the rental. And sadly, the return will be Lair of the Shadow Broker, but that's just because I think Mass Effect 2 as a standalone has enough content there that it's fine as is. So I don't think, like, if I wanted to revisit Mass Effect 2, I don't think I'd have a problem just playing the main game and not feeling like I had enough. Where I think I could play Blood Dragon just on its own without even having to revisit Far Cry 3, or even if I did, I think it feels different enough. So like you said, it's kind of almost more of an expansion for this one. So I think that's where I'm leaning for these picks right now. How are you feeling?
You make some great points because that's the whole thing. Is it additive? Is it a must play? Or is it just more of because I really like the franchise? And we'll talk about the whole DLC as a whole and expansion versus whatever. But, these are all really good. And that's where it makes it really hard. But I would say if we're talking about something that is just so unique and driven that kind of it takes chances and does things that the core games didn't. That's Far Cry Blood Dragon. I mean, it is, like you said, Mark, it's a fever dream of a Terminator 2 that didn't happen. Michael Biehn, who was in the original Terminator, is the main character. And this game is super neon, super 80s driven, and it's doing its own thing. This game, I don't even know who pitched it to say this should even happen. And this is available for like $15 standalone. So yes, you don't have to have the game. So typically you need the game to play this. And this is really where it becomes like a standalone versus other games where you need to have the content. So I think this one is definitely a buy because it definitely stands on its own. So you don't have to feel like it could be act as an introduction to the series too, which makes it really cool. So I'd say buy for that. Then rent Mass Effect 2, The Shadow Broker, because to your point, Mark, I got enough out of Mass Effect 2, like you said, that you didn't need it. But for me, who sucked every bit of life out of Mass Effect 2 on the Xbox 360, Mass Effect is why I bought an Xbox 360, because I tried playing it on PC and I had issues. So that's why I got and I borrowed a Mass Effect from a friend. I could not stop playing Mass Effect. And I don't know how I didn't get 1,000 achievement points with Mass Effect 2. I feel like I was been robbed, but I played everything. And Mass Effect 2 Shadow Broker layered so many new things, like in regards to story and where you're going with 3, that it was just a phenomenal experience. The fact that they got Martin Sheen to be in a video game as the Shadow Broker, which paid dividends in 3, is phenomenal, and where it went. So that for me is just a pivotal experience. Mass Effect to me I'm hoping, and we know we're getting a series, I think, by Amazon based on Mass Effect. That's my favorite science fiction universe of all time.
Wow.
And that's crazy for me to even say that compared to Star Trek, Star Wars, everything else. I love Mass Effect.
That's some big praise.
Because it balances Star Trek and Star Wars so well. Not just the boring, we're going to explore an issue, but we're also going to kick ass, have cool like Jedi wizard powers in space. Love it. So there you go. But then Splatoon 2, God, I want to love Splatoon so much, Mark, and I love what they do, and the art and the play and everything like that. But this, I struggle with the controls. I just really do, because I want to play it as like a third person, and then the motion controls just throw me off and call me an old. I don't know, but once I get into it, I'm like, I get what they're doing. Okay, but I love the first the solo experience, and those missions are fantastic. And I don't know if I just fell off because I'm like, it's just not grabbing me, but I totally get it. As a fan, this is just more awesome content. And it was great. And it was focused on, not on the multiplayer, but on the solo experience, because this is a huge, I mean, I think Splatoon is probably the latest, well, except for like Ring Fit, I think this is the biggest Nintendo franchise they've launched prior to I don't know what. It's huge and it's unique and it's different. And it makes Nintendo, it brings something new to the table. The art style and all that stuff, it just works. So, and Splatoon 3, that game is coming out, and we're probably going to get DLC for that too. So very exciting. My biggest regret is that mode that I really wanted to play, that was only available like on a Tuesday at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, yeah,
drove me nuts. The salmon run. I really wanted to play that because I'm like, that's what I'm looking for. So unfortunately, it's a return, but I'm hoping 3 is the pinnacle, and that's what brings Todd into the yard, Mark.
Excellent. You heard it here. It's not milkshakes. It's
Splatoon.
Splatoon.
And if you've watched The Boys, Mark's love of these cephalopods might be questionable.
Listen.
But moving on, we'll make this PG-13. Folks, we get into what we've been playing. So, Mark, before we begin, you were on a podcast, and this is the funny part. You were on a podcast I was on almost 5 years ago. I feel old.
Right. It's got to get you back. He's So it was. I was on We the Gamercast. That was my second appearance. I was on years ago, and Sean was nice enough to invite me back, and we had a great chat. I loved every second of it. It was really good. We touched on everything from fatherhood to video games to working with other podcasters and people in the community, and just life in general. It was such a great chat. So if you haven't heard that yet, go check it out. And thanks again to Sean for getting me on. But saying all that, it kind of leads me into what I actually have been playing. And this week, Finn's been getting his 2-year-old molars. It has been a week from hell. If anyone watching the video version thinks I look like crap and I'm tired, it's because I probably
Mark,
am.
never. You are a gem. If I could squeeze those cheeks right now, I would.
Good. I got a cut on one of my cheeks, actually. It's like,
oh my God, babe, is it toddler nails?
Yep.
Yeah,
it was.
They're sharp as my God. Those things should be like weapons in a game.
Give me a kiss, but like ripped a chunk out of my face. Anyway, so between like just being busy at work and settling up things before taking a week off, which you almost work double the week before you go on vacation sometimes. I don't know. That's me anyway. But between that and a teething 2-year-old, I have had very little time for games. But one game that I have been able to play, and actually kind of two, is the Paw Patrol games on Game Pass. So I think I talked about the Paw Patrol game when Court was on, and I 100% finished that 1,000 gamer score. The first time I've gotten 1,000 gamer score in years, I think, is Paw Patrol. Because why wouldn't it be? Because that it makes Finn happy. So when TV's not working, or we can't go outside, or whatever, or there's something going on, I can put that on and be like, "Look, this is a distraction." And he actually played a little bit too, which was really cool.
His little hands.
Yeah,
you need like a small controller, Mark. You got one?
Court talked about.
Okay.
I have to still get. But the new one just dropped. So the Paw Patrol, I think it's the movie, the game, based on the movie, based on the TV show, the game version of that.
Yes, yes, that always happens.
The newest Paw Patrol, the movie game, is on Game Pass now, along with Peppa Pig, which I haven't gotten into. But Paw Patrol.
So you need to teach your children how to speak British.
That's
that's a
he's
simulator.
already. I'm
Yes.
sure he's already going to be picking up some like Australian terms from Bluey. So just throw
If he says a
British
shoom, I
English in
will
there.
lose my mind.
So far, so good on that one. No, no mind losing necessary. But that's basically what I've been playing is Paw Patrol on the Xbox, and just distracting my emotional 2 year old um, and going through. But at least it's easy achievements. It's easy gamer score. So I've been just
Well,
like my gamer score's risen by like I think I'm gonna say probably 13, 14, 1500 in the last week or so because the two Paw Patrol games combined, I'm just cruising through stuff. So
I mean,
it is
that's
what it is, man.
phenomenal. I mean, and if you think about it, I mean, that might be a future topic, Mark, but it's like games for kids of all ages might be a good one to go into because I've been there, done that with Logan. And obviously, he's going to teach me how to play games now that he's old enough and better than I am. And he's actually challenged me to play a game that, which is going to be, I think, something we'll explore in the future. But I mean, there's just so many revenues now or avenues you have to play really cool experiences with your children. And it's a shame that the Connect is kind of dead because there were so many cool experiences with the Connect. There was that Sesame Street game. There was like the one by Double Fine where like you play like the floor is lava, which to me just would blow my mind because the Connect was great. And which reminds me, I have a Connect camera. So if you ever need a Connect camera, Mark, I'm your guy. Although it would probably cost like $300 to get it to you in Canada. But the Lego games, I think, are a phenomenal entry point for kids because they look like things you know. They're simplistic, they're fun, and they can just play around and beating up stuff. And there's so many different franchises involved. Which please bring back Lego Dimensions, please,
Dimensions. Oh man.
without all the bricks because you can just play the game. But yeah, I think this is fun and it's a perfect thing to do. It's interactive, it's fun, and it's not just your kid looking at a screen; it's also him potentially talking to dad and playing
Yeah.
with him. It's a cool
Man,
experience.
so I clipped the video of the first thing that
Oh
Finn
yeah,
actually did by himself. I tweeted it out, and a big thank you to Outright Games for just making these games that are so simplistic and fun, and he got it. But like that video, I was so pumped that like nowadays it's a button. Like I don't have any video of the first game I played, like the first time I jumped in Super
no,
Mario Brothers,
break
like
out your
whatever it
Super
was,
8
like
camera and
right,
put up the
like that doesn't exist.
tripod.
But like, so like I handed the controller to Finn because I got to a place where you just literally had to like wiggle the two control sticks or wiggle one of the control sticks. Maybe I can't remember what it was, but like I just handed the controller to him. And I was like, "Here, buddy, do this." And he like looked at the controller and kind of looked at me and looked at the TV and started wiggling the thing, and it worked. Like it did something on the screen, and he got so excited. He like tossed the controller after like it because it comes up and it's like the big celebratory thing, and like he's doing the happy dance on the couch, and I got a little bit
Oh
of
yeah,
that part on like
I
my
saw him jump
phone
on the
camera
couch. I'm
too.
like, I hope you're gonna
And he did
survive
this
this kid.
big jump,
Yep,
like yeah,
yep.
big throw, hands up in the air. But like before I even started recording, he's still doing like his little happy dance, and it was so great. So like Outright Games, you guys, you have something right there. It's a 2 year old could get it and enjoy it and did a happy dance. So like that's the best.
And Mark, speaking about that, because speaking about our own gamer who has the skills of a 2-year-old, we're hopefully going to get the copy of that Star Trek game for Charlie, so he can
Oh, yeah.
expand beyond Lego games.
We'll work on that one. We'll work on that one for sure. I
Exactly.
can talk. You know what? I can talk about the last thing, and then you can jump in because the only other thing I've been able to do is finally unlock Indiana Jones in Fortnite. Um, and I unlocked Indiana Jones. The first, there's two versions of him. There's one like the classic
Oh,
Indiana
okay.
Jones, and then there's another one that's just like he's wearing like a ripped white shirt kind of thing.
Okay.
Which is another one of his signature looks, right? But
But
it's
not like
so
85-year-old Indiana Jones.
yeah, no. This is like
Okay.
heyday Indiana.
Okay. Got it.
But so it's there's a bunch of challenges to do different things. You know, unlock different parts of like the Indiana Jones set, so like a wallpaper and a back bling and an emote and all that kind of stuff. I finally did this last one, and it was such an Indiana Jones challenge. It was so much fun. You had to go to a temple on the map, and there's 4 locations, around or like in that temple that you had to get the symbols from, 4 possible symbols, changes every match. You had to get them in order and then go to a central part of this temple. And then there were 4 rotating pillars that you had to get the right order of the right symbols. And when you did that, it unlocks the big wall goes up and you have to run
Sure.
through the corridor, but you can't step on the dark bricks because the stuff will be shooting out of the
Wow.
walls and kill you. And then at the end, there's a golden idol of the hamburger from Fortnite, but it looks very much like the golden idol from Indy.
Nice.
And when you pick that up, you have a couple of seconds. Everything starts to shake, and then the giant boulder comes down and runs out. But to unlock this challenge, you have to find a secret door to get around the boulder and escape. So
Nice.
I did that. It was such an Indiana Jones feeling moment, and it was so much fun. And I did it. Oh, who did I do that as? I can't remember what character I was when I was trying to do it, but it was something ridiculous. I think I was like Batman or something. I was like Batman doing an Indiana Jones puzzle in Fortnite. It was just ridiculous. Anyway, so I'm very happy I did that, and that's literally all the gaming I've been really doing. Picking at a little bit of TMNT again, just because that game's fun and mindless. But
Yeah.
that's about it. What have you been playing? You've been playing some more stuff, including.
It's funny. It's funny, Mark. You mentioned like Fortnite, Indiana Jones. I'm assuming Nazis will not be part of Fortnite, so that's probably a good thing.
You know what? Right now, the next best thing
Is killing a Nazi in Fortnite?
No, stormtroopers are actually
Okay.
in Fortnite.
Oh, that's true.
You can
Okay.
go and kill stormtroopers and Darth Vader.
Just misunderstood contractors, though, Mark.
That's 100%. Yeah.
But a stretch goal would be to have the lead of the Disney gaming development. He is married to Andrea Renee, and he's basically the guy that brings all of the gaming content of Marvel and Disney and all their properties together. I would love to have him on because, man, just to think of what's in his head and where things play, and to be able to get Indiana Jones. We've had Patrick from Secret Friends Unite, who is like the marketing director for Indiana Jones and Star Wars, which has been awesome. And it's just take that a step forward in video games. It's just like, wow, that's amazing. The mind boggles of all of the opportunities and who balances that with what's good, what's bad, and what's allowed. Wow. It's amazing. So Fortnite, keep doing what you do because, man, nobody's doing it like they do. Wow. No. Wow. So Mark, let's just put this stake in the ground. Todd has finally beat Luigi's Mansion 3. 3 years in the making. I love this game. Got pulled away every year. I said I was going to make my Halloween game. Did not happen. This game launched on the 30th of October, 2019. Come on, Nintendo. You're going to make a spooky game? Get it out at the beginning of October. Even late September works. But man, this game is so much fun. But I do not like playing this game handheld because the screen is so small and this game is so beautiful. It needs to be put on a big screen. So really, really great to do it there. It's such a fun game. This game does have DLC, but it's like tied to like these mini games that are primarily multiplayer focused, which is really interesting. Which I never went down the road and played. So, but it was interesting they brought in DLC to this game, but love it. So if you're looking for just a great, awesome 3D platformer, it is so worth your time, and there's so much there. I thought I was done early, and I'm like, nope, it's continuing to go, and I had a blast. So they had so many cool content. I would love to see another game and expand it. I don't know where they're going to go next, but this game is done exceedingly well, like 13 million copies. How the hell does that even happen? I don't know, but you do. You do you, Luigi. I love you. Speaking of which, Mark, I played as Luigi. Waluigi, I played as I'm blanking on her name. The princess from Mario Galaxy.
Oh, Rosalina.
Rosalina. I played as Bowser. I played as in soccer. So I played Mario Strikers, the new game. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. As a single player game, it's going to be very limited. And that's where I found myself. I played it. I played just some standard games. I played a cup, lost because I suck, because I played a game that loves to pass, Mark, they basically kept the ball away from me for like, I played 3 minute quarters or 4 minute quarters or whatever, or 4 minute game. I don't know what it was, but I think they had the ball for almost 3 minutes out of the 4 minutes because they're just passing it like damn like fools. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I never got like my cool power up move. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But it's fun. It is a fun game, but it is primarily a multiplayer game that you need to play with other people, which is just not my style. But I think it's fun. I know some people like Sean Capri, who we just talked about, is very unhappy with the game that's laid out. A lot of people are because they're limiting the modes. There's not really what I would have loved if they did like a lot of the games in the past where they did almost like an RPG as a single player. You did like mini games, but they didn't do it. It's just you just play the game. So if you're into like arcade sports games, you'll enjoy it, but I think it needs a second player. And I don't know. It's $60 game, and for me, it was a GameFly rental, and it's going back because my son's not going to play with me. I'm not going to play it online, so it's like, okay. There's no real like challenges to go except just play more people and play more games.
Yeah, that's the deciding factor so far in me not picking it up. And I have nothing wrong with arcadey games. I think I talked a few weeks ago about jumping back into Super Mega Baseball, and like I love that kind of stuff. But usually I get that stuff on sale, and you know, Nintendo games rarely go on sale, so it might be a little while until I pick this one up. But for me, knowing the lineage of different, you know, Mario sports games, and like thinking about what they could do on the Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance for like games like, you know, Mario Golf, where you said there's like that RPG story mode involved and then a robust multiplayer. It's like, well, we're a couple of generations moved. Like that's a what, 20-year-old, 25-year-old game now. Maybe do something better on Switch. I don't know. It just seems like some weird decision. So I get the returning on that one, but I would love to try it because I usually do love the Mario sports games. So I might just fold and pick it up eventually, or maybe try to hold out till it goes on sale. But I know Brennan Myers is a big fan of this one. So
I mean, and that's where I think you may have to make a league to really get into it. And there's leagues you can set up. There's a cup action going on right now that you can play in. And it's funny because I think there is still, Mark, a demo of the game where it walks you through. So I definitely, you played it. So yeah, I mean, the mechanics are solid. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, I mean, it's your mileage may vary based on, you know, who you can play with and go with it. But I mean, you and your brother might have a good time. You and Lauren might have a good time. But, you know, I don't know. Is it a 4-player couch co-op game? Maybe. But yeah. So yeah. Sports games have struggled on the Switch this generation because I think the expectations are so big to make because Nintendo has a really dedicated single player audience that I think is so ravenous for that type of content that they're like, no, we just want you to play with friends. I'm like, I don't like playing with people. That's why I have a Switch on the go where I don't need a connection, right? Yeah. Oh, well, definitely recommend it if you do like playing. Like Sean Capri, I think this is perfect for him and Henry and Stella. They would love it. And yeah, I will
Sean Nias.
Sean, see if he's got, yeah, so sorry. Well, Sean Capri, well, no, he doesn't like that. But yeah, Sean Nias, definitely with his kids, I think they'd enjoy it. But moving on, though, a game also I played on Switch, thanks to GameFly, is the House of the Dead remake. Mark, I love like arcade like gun shooters. I do
too.
Time Crisis. What was that Namco game that was just weird? It was like a little guys running across them. They had like fireballs coming and you have to shoot. I can't remember the name of that game. It was a Namco game back on the PS2 era. It was I forgot the name of it, but they did so many cool games. There's like the Virtual Cop. There is so many cool just
Terminator
like games.
Speaking of
yeah, like in the there actually is a like arcade 1-up version of that Terminator game, which is awesome. Think about that little thing with two with the two guns that you can shoot.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many cool light gun games, and unfortunately, because of modern display technology, they just don't work. They just don't work. So you thought, you know, maybe the Switch, because the Wii had a ton of awesome shooters,
including
like
House of the Dead, Overkill.
Oh,
Completely on the
Overkill.
Wii.
I remember playing that game like this is way too adult for the Wii. I mean, it's like House of the Dead, but we're throwing in f bombs, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It's so much fun. There was an awesome Dead Space game that they made for the Wii that was fantastic. There was all those Resident Evil like gun games, and I thought the Switch would bring it back, but there's a limitation on the Switch, which I found because I played the game. The pointer or the IR is not good
Mm,
for this type of game. It
right.
was completely off half the time. The game, I think, is coming to PS4 and Xbox One, but it looks like a Wii HD port because the textures look off. The voice talent is right on that level of like on games. Like it just seemed off, and I
Mm.
try to enjoy it. The good thing about this game was though, because you're shooting zombies, you're going through. Sometimes you get lucky and you can shoot a pot and it has a coin in it or something, but you are limited in your continues. But you can get more continues if you get enough points. So it kind of limits you, and then does allow you to checkpoint, so you're not starting from the beginning every time. But man, oh man, I honestly wish they would add in a light bar like the Wii. It would
Yeah.
add some type of sense port to basically add in some context of where you're pointing at, because the
See,
motion control is limited because it doesn't have an idea of where you're pointing it.
and that would be tough on the Switch because the IR port's on the bottom. So you'd really
Yes,
have to flip the controller upside down, which
down.
then you don't have the triggers. So
Yeah,
you're kind of thumbing the trigger. So you'd almost need an attachment that kind of remaps where, so you could actually have like a gun or something that the light gun or the Joy-Con could go into, which would have kind of some sort of relay. So when you pulled the actual trigger, it hit the R button or whatever it was with the IR sensor on the other side. And it's not impossible, but yeah, definitely. I don't think the Switch was made for that kind of direct motion pointing control stuff, which is a shame because, like you said, we haven't had that since the Wii, and the Switch has a lot of that lineage kind of feel to it, but definitely different tech.
yeah. So you can use just the stick control. And on the Switch, if you do it in handheld mode, you can use like touch controls, which I think defeats the purpose. So, because my wife, she doesn't play a lot of video games, but she loves going to like the Dave and Buster's, picking up a gun and shooting zombies in the head. This was going to be very unfulfilling for her. So I'm like, okay, it tried. And maybe for some people, like I think Ryan Turfer played this game and he said it was satisfying to him. But for me, as I played it, I'm like, it just didn't nail it. So maybe there will be somebody that figures out LCD, LED, OLED, or whatever, like shooting with something on the screen. And if they do, Mark, I will back it. So,
Yep, absolutely.
we're not there yet. But a game we are there with, and I have dubbed this game The Cats of Us, which is Stray. So, The Last of Us, but with cats. But in a world where there are zombies, we've essentially got these robot servants and cats. And this game just came out. It's on PC and PlayStation. It's on PS Plus Extra if
Right.
you own the service. And there's Premium, which is just like the classics and such like that. So this game is by an indie studio. It's by Annapurna. So Annapurna.
Oh,
So there you go, Mark.
Jesus.
I'm getting back to you there with cats because we're playing there. This game is adorable. I played like an hour of this game, and it's adorable. It's basically you wake up or you start off the game with a bunch of cats, and it's in the future. They look like they're in the jungle, and then the cats are gallivanting, and they do what cats do. They go up to each other, nuzzle each other, they annoy each other, and then they fight a little bit, but then they love each other, and then they sleep. Then the cats wake up, and then they go off, and they explore, and everything's good until the pipe they're jumping on falls apart, and your little tabby, who looks like Garfield but in better shape, falls down. And it is heartbreaking, Mark. You see this cat, it's like, oh my God. And then he wakes up and he's at the bottom. I don't know if it's like he or she wakes up at the bottom of the tunnel where she fell and she's hurt. So she's struggling. I'm like, oh no. But then she rests for a little bit and then she's back up. Cats do that. They're resilient. I have two of them and they're crazy. And this is a really cool game where they paid attention to the way cats react, the way they interact. And you can be the cat that does all those annoying things to you, but you can do it on purpose now as this cat. You knock things over, you go over, you can get on top of things you shouldn't. And it's really fun. I'm really enjoying this game. And there is a story in the way they interact. One of the commands you can do, Mark, is just meow. You can also scratch on carpet or different things as using your L2, R2. You can knock things over, like I said, like things that shouldn't be up there and then broken. You can crawl up, and cats are great because the whole mechanic is cats land on their feet, and they should. So and they do in this game. But it's really cool. But it's like you venture in, you see the world is in the future, and there are robots. But there's also these little creatures that are almost like rats, but they kind of look like weird, like aliens with red lights, and you have to run away from them. And it's very scary because you want your cat to survive, and they have ways of shaking it off. But something's gone wrong with this world in the future, and that's your mission. But it's really fun because as you're interactive to figure out what you need to do, you're meowing, and then you see like these things with technology, like a camera. As you meow, the camera is like kind of interacting, like saying yes, no. And then you see all these things in the world that are pointing in the right direction. It's very cool. I've heard great things about this game, and it's not letting me down. So I think it's going to be on other consoles later. But if you have PS Plus Extra, if you can buy the game on PS, PlayStation, or PC, it's well worth playing. It's called Stray. It's really fun. Will come up with more cat puns later.
I've heard great things about this game. I'd love to play it. I don't currently have my PS4 hooked up and don't have a PS5. I'm guessing this is going to be one of those year out comes to Xbox,
sure.
maybe kind of thing. So, yeah, this one's definitely tempting me.
Yeah, it's just fun. They nailed cats. I told my son he needs to play it because he's gotten used to all of our cats we have in our house. And we've had games with dogs and, good doggos, you pet a dog. But cats kind of get a short shrift. They're not always loved. And there's dog people and there are cat people. So, I mean, this is nice. It's cats are having their day with this game. So the last game I think with cats that was showcased was Cat Letter Damage, which was just cat asshole simulator where the cats go off and knock over things. So it's like, you know what? Cats deserve some love too, folks. So there we go.
Well, we had what was it? Super Mario 3D World.
Oh yeah. With all the cat costumes.
Yeah,
okay.
The cat costumes.
There you go.
But, a real cat being the focus. That's new. That's great.
Yeah, I felt it was a little cheating with Luigi's Mansion 3 with the Polter Pup. So Poltergeist Pup. Yeah, so there we go. Cats are in my heart, and I will go back to that game. So there we go. And just last before we move on, what I've been playing on has been an OLED TV. I upgraded. We're in the new house. The Geek Den is being fit. I got a new TV because we didn't have a TV in that space. So I will go along with Luke, Laura, everybody else. OLEDs are fantastic if you can afford them. I was holding off because I'm like, is it too much? But you know what? Treat myself. End of year. I did really well with the company. It's definitely something I felt like I could indulge in. But if you can't, totally get it. But if you can, OLEDs are chef's kiss.
Nice.
That'll be
my next upgrade. I was looking at Prime Day deals and stuff this year, but I wasn't quite ready. I just bought a new TV a few years ago, so it's still good, still kicking. Nice 4K, but that'll be the next one.
Nice. So with that, Mark, we had a question from famous Seumas, the most famous of all Seumases. He said, because I think everybody is like just melting in the world right now. It's hot. We finally had a heat break in Minneapolis area. But what games do you play to beat the summer heat? I mean, are we playing the Winter Olympics? Are we going to like the ice levels in games? What do you do to feel the chill the game can provide?
You know what? That's a good question. It's yeah, I think you might be onto something there with the ice levels or the Olympic Games, something like that. The first one that popped into my mind was Riders Republic from
Mm.
Ubisoft, and that one you can do some stuff in the heat, but you can also just take off to the mountains and enjoy some fun snow activities there. So that was the first, for whatever reason, the first one that popped into my head, but that's only because 1080 snowboarding and snowboard kids are not yet on the N64 expansion, which I would 100% go to first. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking anyway. What about you?
Oh my goodness, Mark. There was a game when I was a young kid, when I owned my NES, that I played too much and I was really bad at. TNC Surf Designs. Do you remember that game, Mark?
Ooh.
They were like a shirt company that would make like really crazy like surf t-shirts. They had a crazy ape and all these different things. And they made an NES game where you would skate and surf. And that game just breaks me back to the summer. Summer games also, but I mean, it was just fun. I don't know if that game could ever come back to like the NSO systems, but I mean, it was just fun. Like you're skateboarding, and there's like treacherous deaths as you're skateboarding on this like broken highway that somebody needs to repair. I mean, like there's like opening in the middle of this freeway where it's like, that's not safe. How is a skateboarder allowed? And then you'd have surfing, and like you'd go up and down. You try to avoid like seagulls and things, and it was just fun. So that's a game that brings me back to summer. But if on a game I want to escape the heat, now that's a game called, I believe it's called Lost Planet. That was a game by Capcom that came back in the 360 era, where you were on a frozen planet and you were just killing all these crazy animals or like creatures and things. And if you got too cold, you die. So that's a game that makes me feel like I would feel cold even though I'm hot. So check out Lost Planet. There was like 3 of those, but really only the first one's really good.
And of course, I can't let a podcast go without talking about Wave Race, because the whole thing takes place on the water. You're getting
Jet ski.
splashed. You're jet ski. You're just having fun, or a dolphin. Wave Race, bring it to Nintendo Switch. Come on.
What will you do, Mark, if Jet Moto comes out before Wave Race on
Flip
PlayStation?
a table. I will actually, the table that I'm sitting at right now, I will just flip it into a wall and be very angry for 14 and a half seconds.
Oh my goodness.
And then I'll get over it.
Make it happen, Nintendo. What are you doing? It's not like you have a new license. I don't think they had Ski-Doo or anything in there. So just get it.
They removed it on the
okay.
Wii U when they re-released it there. But they did have, Kawasaki jet skis, I believe.
How much is that license really, Nintendo?
No, they removed it all. So there's already a freaking port with this stuff removed that they had to remove, because there were a few, or at least one, or but it might have been a few sponsors in that game for like clothing and stuff on the billboards and everything. But they already have a port where that stuff's removed. So just file save as Nintendo Switch Online N64 thing, and just give me what I want. It's
just
summer.
put Mario on a bloober, right?
It's just what I want.
Does that work? Mario on a bloober, like it from Mario Sunshine?
I think so. Yeah, that does. Sunshine's a great game too, because you've got the flood.
Oh yeah,
there's all
tropical paradise,
and stuff. I guess that's not really escaping the heat, because
but you can spray people with water to get them cool.
You're cooling some people down, I guess. Cool spot.
Oh yeah,
because it has cool right in the name.
Sharing beverages that are carbonated.
Than a Sprite, I suppose, maybe. This got off the rails.
The Tetris game with water. We can keep going on, but we won't, because it's only going to get worse from there, folks. So that is it. Thank you, famous Seumas. If anybody else any hints on how to stay cool in this hot, weird world of crazy temperatures, let us know.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to pause. And that moves us on to the news. So, Mark, Ubisoft is really one of your favorite companies, and they had their earnings call. And, I'd like your thoughts on where Ubisoft is headed because a lot of people are just not sure.
Yeah, it's I mean, the whole games industry, there's so many delays and that kind of stuff that I think it's a little bit of fear mongering to be, the Kotaku report, and of course it's Kotaku because bad luck continues, cancellations, cost cuttings. Is Ubisoft in trouble? It's like I don't know, like just a string of delays mean Ubisoft are in trouble, or the whole game industry. Like, we're getting rid of crunch, we're cutting down. There's the pandemic. There's this. There's that. Shit's happening all over. But in this one specifically, they did just delay Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Will not release alongside the movie, coming sometime, I don't know, maybe late
March
23,
March
sometime in
2023, I
24.
think is what they're saying now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, like, is it essential to have it alongside the movie? It doesn't seem like it is. I'd rather them get the game right. And I think I said this an episode or two ago that I think if they just let you have fun in Pandora and explore that world, I think it's a cool enough world to justify wanting to explore it. I think there's a lot of flora and fauna and adventures to be had, just literally just frigging around in the world like Ubisoft does. How many times have you been like, the fate of the world rests on your shoulders in a Ubisoft game, and you're like, cool, but first I'm gonna go ADHD my way through all of these side missions because I think there might be a donkey on the top of that mountain
That guy
that
needs his
has a
bread,
scroll
that
that,
loaf of
will
bread.
lead me to the bread for that homeless guy that I found in behind the Acropolis. It's just, that's how I play Assassin's Creed games. I am all over the place. I want to explore every bit of the map. I want to just see how far I can push the game and how much I can and see and get around things that way. So, and that's why Ubisoft is to me such a great company, because they do that kind of stuff so well. But then they also give us stuff like Mario plus Rabbids. So yeah. I don't think that game's been delayed, so I don't know if there's that kind of big trouble. We still have the Assassin's Creed, I think, Infinity launch of the Assassin's Creed thing that's happening in September. There were some rumors that one's going to be delayed as well, but who knows? There was like a big game delay rumor, and people were saying, "Oh, it's probably Assassin's Creed," but it turned out that might be just Avatar. So, like, Assassin's Creed might, as far as we know right now, still be on track. So who knows? Who knows? The next Assassin's Creed game, there's a few rumors to where it's going. I think Middle East is one of the strongest rumors. The people saying they want it to go somewhere in Asia for years, but right now I think that might be a little bit too Ghost of Tsushima to really justify wanting to go there. Anyway, I'm excited to see still what they have going on. We finally have a release date for Skull and Bones. That game looks
Mhm.
real and looks good, and I don't know. I'm excited to play it this fall. So so there we go. I think like I don't know if like they're doomed, but delays suck for games that people were looking forward to. Getting into the rest of it, like layoffs and that kind of stuff, like I don't personally really want to dive into all that kind of stuff because I don't know. I never like just analyzing people losing their jobs. That sucks. it just
Yeah.
does. So yeah, if you want to jump in on a bit of the business side of things, that's cool. But like game wise, I don't know. I think they're in as a healthy a place as anyone else. Like this fall is a weird fall. This year has been a weird year of delays and pushbacks. And, why did we buy these new consoles? It's you still can't find the consoles, but like the game lineups for both are a little barren through the year. So it's a weird year, and
Yeah.
Ubisoft's not immune to that.
Yeah, they're in a weird space because they were not acquired. And we're hearing that the acquisitions are kind of calming down because of inflation worries. Now your money's not going to buy as much, and you want to make sure you hedge your positions so you can actually survive. And because of that, Ubisoft at one point were going to lean into NFTs, and that kind of went away, thankfully, because NFTs, as we're finding with blockchain and all that stuff, it's kind of like a trend versus a reality. So you got to lean back. From that. So the question becomes, where are they going to lean into, and what will work for this company? They haven't really got a great games as service type model like a Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, things like that. They've tried, nothing has really worked. So the question becomes, where are they going to line into? And it sounds like, Mark, the AC Infinity is going to be that game, because that's going to be the free to play. It's going to be modules. It's going to be like, we're going to explore different time zones, which could work really well. And they're also still going to support standalone AC games, which, with this game we're hearing that might take place in the Middle East, very cool. So they're going to have to, balance what works to, have just enough Assassin's Creed versus too much, and where are people going to play? Because I think you could potentially be in both areas depending on how you want to play or what areas are interesting to you, because you like those games.
Yeah, and it sounds like Infinity might be all encompassing. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's almost like, it sounds like Infinity is just going to be like the platform, almost like a Fortnite type thing where,
Yeah.
yeah, you can screw off and go into like the story modes, or you can do multiplayer. You can probably do some content, created content or this or that or whatever. So, and they're going to keep adding to it. So, Infinity almost sounds like a hub, or like the basic skeleton, and they're going to keep adding meat to it. And you can buy and play whichever kind of chunks of meat that you feel like doing. And yeah, it's. To me, it's exciting. I don't know, but we'll see what they say in September. I'm kind of holding my judgment, reserving my judgment until then.
Yeah, I mean, if they do the season pass where it says essentially the season pass is going to enable you to have a really cool Assassin's Creed experience in worlds you haven't seen before. Japan, maybe Russia, things like that. Canada, Mark, go up to the Yukon, whatever, Montreal, different areas. That could be kind of cool. So I think they can nail it and get it right. Does it work in that model with a really story-based game with all the missions and things like that? I don't think we've seen that yet, because the games that are typically in this model of season passes are, play, shoot people, and move on, and you get some, maybe a cinematic or something like that. But with a story-based game like that, it's going to be a tough balance for them. So we'll see if this works, but it could, if they said, we'd rather charge you $12 every 4 months and you get some cool stuff you can go into, but it feels like an Assassin's Creed game. Maybe that's where they get people to play in, because I don't want to pay $48, but I'd rather play $12. So, because I like Russia, or I like
It's
Japan, or I like China.
exactly, yeah, that's it. I mean, there's so many places they can go. There's so many things they could do between full size games that we've seen, and we're going to talk about DLC. So maybe we'll get it. This is a good time to get into that, because the Assassin's Creed DLC is some of my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. And lastly, I just want Beyond Good and Evil 2 to happen. As of right now, I don't know what's going to happen, Mark. Please save my soul. Give me something. I just want that pig and that girl to go off on adventures, Mark. I don't need to be crazy. I just need to have a fun, good time in an X-Files like
Go
adventure.
listen to Todd.
Well, yes, exactly, because Michael Ansel has been fired. But moving on, yes, to the heart of our conversation. We've touched on it many, many different times, but now we're going to go all in, because this is all to blame to Brandon Myers, our winter gamer. Oh my goodness. Thank you for being such a great part of all of these good gaming communities. And you're busy. You got a little kid who's super adorable. You're being the dad life, and we appreciate you. But you said, what games have some of the best favorite DLC? And I said, Mark, let's expand this. Let's talk about all DLC. And I said, we're going to talk about this in the topic this week. DLC, draining limited currency, or delivering life-giving content. So it's kind of like is it worthwhile? Is it adding to the life of a game, or is it just pinching pennies? So, folks, let me give you a little history about the DLC. So, digital content that you would download was a big deal in the Xbox 360 era. The first real DLC was horse armor for Skyrim. It was cosmetic, didn't do anything, and I think it was like ridiculously expensive, like $5. It's like, is this what we want the future of buying little pieces digitally to go? And
Which is so
thankfully, it's
funny.
changed.
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah, that's true. That's true because it's expanded, right? Because it's not just been a little bit of extra story content. It hasn't been just costumes. Well, it's been a little bit of everything. It's been season passes. It's been loot boxes. I mean, anything you want to call it. It's just basically extra content to the games we love. Sometimes it's standalone. Sometimes it's additive, and it's been a big part of the reason why games have largely been $60 for almost 15 years because they're getting you elsewhere, but keeping the standard games at a certain price, even though that's going to change. So with Mark, with DLC, we can live this decision in a couple of different areas because we talked about, so we struggled. Is DLC is an expansion considered DLC, meaning it's a standalone like content, it's contained, it's its own thing. Like The Witcher 3 has two excellent expansions. Blood Dragon is almost like its own standalone game, but it's treated as like an expansion. You talked about the Splatoon games, and then even talked about Assassin's Creed, where they've gone like had offshoots and things like that too. So, what do you think? Is DLC good or bad?
I think for the most part, it's good. And it's so funny looking back and thinking about overpriced horse armor and you're just paying for something and then coming to someone that plays Fortnite a whole lot and has paid a lot of money for cosmetics. And it's literally something that adds nothing to your gameplay aside from the fact that I can run around looking like Christian Bale's Batman or Darth Vader or whatever Black Chrysanthemum. It adds nothing to that other than my own enjoyment, and it hasn't really changed much aside from public view, because when you see something in Call of Duty or one of these other games that does add some sort of perk and does give you some sort of advantage, especially in the multiplayer side of things, you hear people complaining now, right? It's like, oh, you can't do that. You can't, why are you doing this? They're doing the same kind of thing with Halo and allowing people. It's a whole bunch of shit going down the last few weeks, I think, with that kind of stuff. But as far as purely cosmetic, that's the stuff that I love, whether it's Rocket League, Fortnite, Fall Guys, whatever it is. I think that works really well. As far as bigger DLC or expansions or whatever you want to call it, those I think are fantastic ways to get the people who really love those games, whether it's something like Animal Crossing, New Horizons with the Happy Home Paradise expansion that, my wife put in 900 hours of Animal Crossing or whatever she played, and then jumps back in for Happy Home Paradise. And she played Happy Home Designer on the 3DS. So like that was kind of home for her. For me, it's something like I already mentioned, the Ubisoft games and something like Black Flag, Freedom Cry comes in. I loved Adewale in the game. Playing as him, playing a little bit more of his story, and continue to expand on there. Stuff like Fate of Atlantis from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the stuff that they've done with Ragnarok has been amazing. It's there's some really great examples of like DLC adding like substantive content to games, and I love both. It's when they get stuff like the loot boxes or random things or stuff that you have to kind of pay to win that it starts to bug me. But anywhere on the opposite ends of that, whether it's something simple and stupid like a cosmetic cat head that my character can wear, or like a massive expansive story like the ones we've talked about. So to answer Brennan's question, what games have some of the best or my favorite DLC? I think I did mention the Octo expansion at the start of this, and that one sticks out to me. The Mario Kart 8 DLC, both on the Wii U, so that original pack of expansions, and the new stuff kind of has me a little excited, but I'm still waiting to see when more of that's going to be rolling out and how it's going to go. And like I said, the Assassin's Creed games have been real kind of stickouts to me. I'm trying to think of some others. So Todd, maybe if you want to jump in right now
Sure.
while my brain's spinning,
Yeah.
what have you liked about DLC, or like what are your thoughts on DLC? Do you usually jump in?
Yeah, that's the hard part, because it's like getting DLC right is very important. If you announce a DLC right away when the game's launching, people feel it's like a cash grab. It's like, oh, this is, oh, why didn't you include it in the game? And it's like, I get it. I mean,
Especially if it's ready when the game launches. If it's like buy
yeah,
the game
yeah.
plus the DLC that's ready right now, it's like, come on, dude, include that. If they announce it when the game launches and they're like, this is 6 months out, but you can buy a season pass right now and get it when we're finished making it, then you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, the game's done, but you're still working on this, and I'd like to know about that. Neat. I'll buy the deluxe edition. But it's like
Yeah,
day one download plus DLC that you can play right. It's like, come on, dude.
yeah, because I think about like the Xenoblade Chronicles game that's coming out now. They announced the DLC right away. It's like, and I know it's substantial content, and I'm like, okay, and it's part of a season pass or whatever. I'm like, I totally get that. So yeah, it's that hard balance to say we want to give you more content, but it's not ready right away. But we think it's worth the price of admission for you to go after it. So that's difficult, because I've heard with games where they don't announce it like right away and they announce it much later, it's less successful because you're already moved on. You have said, I got my adventure. I am satisfied. I won't get around. And that's similar to me in Mark, maybe the same experience where it's like, oh, I need to get back to that. I bought the DLC, but I haven't. And that just creates a disconnect. So
Yep.
where I have loved DLC, which is part of almost like an expansion, is Witcher 3. There were two
Right.
huge expansions that essentially felt like there were 30 hours of more content that added on to the whole experience that I'm glad they brought it to me. They also gave you, I think, 30 or 40 extra pieces of DLC as just owning the game. So it's not like they try to game you and try to get more out of you. It's like they're trying to reward their fans with saying, we want to give you more content, keep this game alive and keep the game going forward, because it just takes a lot of resources to keep a game alive. And because they're going to move on to something eventually anyways, rather than just support it. So I struggle at times to say it's a cash grab and what the best way it is. But I mean, I love that because it added so much after the game. And the way Witcher 3 ended, I needed some support. I was struck. I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad about how it ended. And then when taking Geralt through those extra missions felt almost like it was rehab for him. It was therapy to bring him back to the person we knew he was and what he lost and being able to move on. So it was really important. Same thing with Mass Effect. Like I talked about, I absorbed every bit of the main game, and playing those DLCs, it just felt like I could continue my experience with these characters and just extend that. But it's not always that way. Sometimes it's a cheap, it's an extra costume. It's this. I mean, you see that. It's like, oh, an extra storybook. It's a DLC album. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But it's tough. I mean, understanding where you want to spend your money and if it's worthwhile, it varies. To your point, Mark. I mean, with Animal Crossing, that brought that really ravenous fan base back, because they're like, I've ringed this thing out so much. There's nothing there, and I just want to keep playing. And Nintendo's like, this is the biggest game in the world. We got to do something. It's the first time they've done DLC, right?
Uh, yeah, I mean, like I said, they've had it for Super Mario Kart 8 as far back as the Wii U. But yeah, Nintendo hasn't done a ton of DLC. One example that I forgot earlier, and I definitely have to bring up, is Shovel Knight, because they just
Mm.
kept adding things with the other knights and
The treasure trove, right? That was the
yeah,
collection. If you bought it, you got everything.
absolutely. And that was, Jesus, Spectre of Torment, King of Cards, Plague of Shadows with Plague
Hmm.
Knight, and then Shovel Knight Showdown was included in that, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, there was quite a bit. Now we've got more
Fucking
content outside of that
insane. Yeah,
initial
crazy,
offering coming through.
crazy.
Yeah, because I mean, geez, I mean, it's amazing. Now, a game, Mark, that is our game of the year 2 years ago. Immortals: Phoenix Rising.
Right.
Neither of us did we even touch the DLC. I
I
tried a
did
little bit of it,
not
and I
get
just felt
back to
like,
the DLC, man.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I loved that game so much,
yeah,
still do.
we all
And
did.
it's
Yeah.
just, and sometimes, and I do find that's a problem with Ubisoft games a lot of times, um, their games are so substantive that you don't get back to the DLC. For me, it took a couple of years for me to get back to the Black Flag DLC, and play that story, just because that game was so big that after you put 100 hours into something, you need a break. And Breath of the Wild was another good example. Is like you finish that game and then they dropped the DLC for that one, that they had the different ballads or whatever, and then the motorcycle. It's like I dropped in and took the motorcycle for a spin a little bit, and it's like, man, I still got to take a bit of a break.
I
I
couldn't do
eventually
the
get back to
I
it.
couldn't
But
do the, like, what was it, the mode where like you're naked and afraid, and
oh
it's
yeah,
like I can't do that. I got killed by a bat. I'm not
yeah.
doing that. Yeah,
Yeah, you're getting
yeah,
killed if something looks at you the wrong way. It's nuts. Um, but that's the great thing, is sometimes it's, you don't have to buy all this stuff. A lot of people, I think, and I'm bad for this. Of you see a deluxe edition of something, or you see DLC on sale, and you're like, I'm gonna get it. Let's go, and then you never get back to it. But like, you can kind of piecemeal your way through it if you think you're gonna spend time on it. If you think you're gonna have some sort of desire to jump back in with a character or with a game or whatever, good. And if not, it's completely optional content, which is nice. So, or at least it should be when it's done right. So that's, again, I hate when DLC doesn't feel optional, or feels forced or whatever. But most of the examples that I'm thinking of have been done really, really well, whether or not
yeah.
you personally enjoy them.
I was thinking about Assassin's Creed with Valhalla with Donnie Reese, who was on the show, and he has put like a billion hours in that game. I think I never got past like leaving Norway or whatever, and like,
Right.
because that game was just too big. It was like, that's 18 hours in, and I'm like, I haven't feel like I'd done anything. And he's like, oh, I want 80 more hours of content, and I'm like, oh boy, that's a lot. But I mean, wow, I mean, there's just so many more examples of, how do we keep this alive? I mean, Infamous. I love the first two games, and they made a cool, like, just extra content where you're a vampire in New Orleans. I'm like, how does that even happen? And I loved it, and I thought it was fantastic. So, I mean, even games that have struggled to find a fan base, Bioshock 2, there is a DLC for that game, which apparently is called out as that is probably the best part of Bioshock as a whole, Minerva's Den. It's
Oh
like,
wow, yeah.
man, I heard so many good things.
Mhm.
Should I go back just to play that? So it really makes you feel like maybe they could have messed up the original game, but make take their all the things they learned and make it better and save the game. But
Mhm.
how many people will actually learn that?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a very rare occasion of DLC being better than the game itself. Other examples that come to mind for that one right off the bat, like the Ballad of Big Gay Tony for Grand
Mhm.
Theft Auto 4,
Which
jumps out
was an
as like that
Xbox
was
360 exclusive. I remember that. That was a big deal.
yeah. um, I think like the Witcher expansions. I know my brother said like Blood and Wine, I think,
So
was
good.
better.
Yeah, they almost made it, Mark, into almost like a fairy tale, like
Yeah.
a Grimm's fairy tale when they did that. I'm like, oh, and they were so good, and I'm like,
Mm.
how could they make this game even better? And they did, and it gave me, who loved Witcher 3, like almost 40 more hours of content. And I'm like, wow, I came at the right time because I absorbed it all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you look at my background, Red Dead Redemption, a game that I really didn't, I played a little bit of, but when they made a zombie like horror expansion, it's the only time they've done something like this. I was just blown away. I loved it. And somebody actually made a movie out of it too. And it was phenomenal. And I just feel like it's a sin that they have not gone back with Red Redemption 2 and done in their new version of this, haven't gone back. But you know what? When they're making like Grand Theft Auto 5 online money, I guess they don't have to.
True enough. Very true. I have to also call out the latest Pokemon expansions, the Frozen Tundra and whatever it was, because they brought my boy Nidoran into that game finally for Sword and Shield. So that was one that I was excited. The second I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, that was a Nido King. My boy's back. Let's go. Chippy is entering the arena. Let's do this. So yeah, there's certain things of different DLCs that are going to catch you. And that for me was enough to go put another 20 or more hours into Pokemon Shield. Cause as soon as I was like, okay, well, got to find Nidoran. So I might as well beat the DLC.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I would say, Mark, the game that you love the most, I would say these days is Fortnite. And they don't really make DLC, they make seasons. And they make evolving content that is probably the best in class. No one feels cheated. And everyone needs to learn from it because it feels like if you put the time into the game with the season pass, you probably don't have to buy anything. But that requires you to put the time into the game. So, yeah, I think they really, and I don't play the game, but that's all I hear is Fortnite gets it right.
They do, and the nice thing is the game's free to play, and they support it with a little high priced at times DLC, but like you said, if you buy one expansion and you don't really waste your money on skins or anything else, you can keep kind of buying the season passes. So if you buy one, you kind of keep getting the others, and then there's other ways to spend your money if you actually want to spend real money, but that's fine. But that's the great thing with Fortnite, and so many other companies try to charge you full price for a game and then Fortnite style money for DLC or for skins. And it's like, well, you can't do both. Pick one. Like
No.
release your game for free and have overpriced DLC, or make us pay for your game and make the DLC dirt cheap so we don't mind putting cat ears on a first person character that we don't even get to see. Like Fortnite is at least third person, so I can see it when I'm Marcus Phoenix running around through the game. And there's like I think that helps Fortnite as well, because a lot of you see Halo and Call of Duty and all these other games try to do this stuff, and it's like, well, what are you going to do? Like put cat ears on your gun? Who cares? It's cosmetic for everyone else, but in Fortnite, I get to enjoy seeing myself run around as Catwoman. It's great. So yeah, Fortnite's such a great example of getting the pricing pretty much right, releasing the game for free and doing all that kind of stuff, that when other companies try to charge for a game and for DLC, it's just like, man, sorry, I can play Fortnite everywhere. Like I logged into Fortnite on GeForce Now the other day because you get a free pickaxe or something like that when you play a match on GeForce Now. Like, friggin', I have a GeForce account. Let's do this. And logged in on my computer and jumped into a match, and that was it. It's so easy to play it everywhere.
To that mouse life, Mark. That mouse reticle. You're all in.
Really sell me on the trackpad on my MacBook right away, but it's an option, I guess. But it's people say it's hard to find the balance, but there's so many examples there of the balance being found, that nowadays companies like 343 struggling with Halo, Square Enix struggling with Avengers, and they've nailed some of the movie costumes, and then they turn around and they release like Thor in a swimsuit and like Tony Stark just wearing a shirt. And
Yeah.
it's just like, why? What are you doing? This is the summer collection. Who cares? Like, just release a skin from friggin' like
Swimsuit. It's Sports
Love and
Illustrated, the
Thunder.
swimsuit collection. There we
Yeah,
go.
right. And that's
That's what
cool.
everybody
Like,
wants.
but like
No.
they have struggled with so much DLC because they create costumes that no one gives half a crap about. And but meanwhile, like there's MCU skins sitting there, and it's like, just come on, it's right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, they've struggled with balancing, and I think it becomes a challenge to that game. And I think the model needed to change to be different when you're charging for a full game, and then you say do this, and in bringing in a bigger fan base, make it free to play. Maybe that changed the game. It's on Game Pass. I think it's on PlayStation Plus now. I wanted to get back to play it, but I mean, yeah, that game has struggled with keeping its audience afloat. And I think it feels like there's a smell of this game is going to end soon, so I'm not sure people are really they're hesitant probably to invest in it. So there's different ways to approach it. But I would say, Mark, before we end this conversation, what game or franchise do you want DLC on that you feel like that's only going to get that's the only way I'm going to get to play more of it or something more of it if I don't get that?
So like a game that's done right now, but
Pretty
I'd like to
much,
see
yeah.
expanded a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's tough. And I would have said Jedi Fallen Order if we're not getting the sequel. So that would have been my answer there. Right off the bat, I'm going to say Ninja Turtles. Give me more stages. Give me more story. There's I know they spent a ton of time doing the sprites for that game. I'm happy with them, but I think they could do subtle variations. I think there's enough there that they could, sticking with the art style in the game, I think they could still do a little bit. I think they could do, let's say,
Girls in Time.
comic black and white kind of stuff, Turtles in Time variants. There's a ton of even NES
The
looking
movies.
book. The movies, there's a lot there that they could do. I think they have enough characters, but yeah, continue on with the story. Add a bit more, and do that when you add crossplay. Make a big celebration of it. Be like, hey, we've got crossplay. That's free for anyone. And if you want to continue to support the game and you want a little bit more, here's an expansion with there are 10 new levels and and the black and white turtle skins. Cool. You got my $10.
It's a good choice. Before I leave, my choice, Control did get DLC, which I need to go back to. So, thank you for keeping a franchise I loved alive and giving you more awesome contents. That's on me not to finish it, which I own. So that's my Mark. Remind me to play that game.
I will try.
Yes. Yeah, obviously, with your children and with your child and your wife, my gaming schedule is really important to you.
Very, very important.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see how that goes. But for me, Infamous, I loved the DLC they did with that vampire mode. And I don't know if we're ever going to get more Infamous, but if they want to give that off to somebody and give us DLC, because I love superhero games and that was such an awesome franchise, please make it happen because I love it so much, but it may not happen. But you know what? I can only hope and dream. And that's why we have this segment.
Great question. I want to hear Brendan Meyer's favorite DLC.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and just think of all the different franchises where you could do some deep dives into like extended universes and different things of other franchises where they could delve deep because video games ultimately can play in their own, playground. And we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, folks, if you have DLC that you want to see that you have not gotten yet, let us know. So, Mark, this has been a fun journey. You're getting ready to go on vacation mode. But before you do, tell people where they can follow you in the world of nerd in video games on the interwebs.
You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever else you want to at @the_Canardian or on Xbox and Switch, just Canardian. I dropped the.
We don't like those things, the thes. Oh, well. You can follow me at Toxtra on the Twitters, talking about all things games and talking with people that are cooler than me. But if you want to game with me, because I would love to game with people, but I'm a shy gamer. Sparty on 98 on Xbox and Switch, and Sparty on 1998 on PSN. If you have recommendations for gaming geek den stuff, let me know, because I'm trying to build mine up and make it cool. So that is it for us. Mark, thank you as always. Enjoy your vacation.
Thanks.
And folks, remember, it's always better to game together.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.